We're looking good.
Yeah. Live from the east side of the eastern end, it's I Need a Shower edition of Business Pants.
It sure is. Me too.
Joined as always by Emma DeLurkio and Matt Mascardi, 150. Slap-worthy kid in the corner. In today's bag of used bags called March 29th, 2022. Matt, you don't do that thing anymore where you're like surprised at the date. Are you just resigned
I'm
to
excited
life?
for April. I'm counting down to April when it feels like it's going to get warm again.
Damien does diversity head scratchers, Matt does anti-woke shareholders, and Emma does lurkiness, I think.
I'm a second.
Yeah, I love it.
I like
There we
that the
go.
day she's lurking is the day she has the least delay. She's like on us right now. It's like finally perfect.
Just cross fingers, man.
Here we go. There's a lot. We got a lot. Let's get right to it. Come on.
Do
Stop
it.
talking.
Do it.
I apologize for how long mine are, but feel free to interrupt. I don't mind, actually.
I'm not going to.
Here's a weird one I found. The Coca-Cola Company has officially walked away from race-based staffing requirements for law firms doing work for the company following blowback from some investors, right? And the removal of the executive who developed the plan. So, Matt, this one actually ties into you. I didn't even mean it to tie into your story, but somehow we get there. Here we go.
Do it.
So in 2021, Coke's top lawyer, that's General Counsel Bradley Gayton, announced one of the legal industry's most rigorous outside counsel diversity programs. He said at the time, "We will no longer celebrate good intentions or highly unproductive efforts that haven't and aren't likely to produce better diverse staffing. It's the results that we are demanding and will measure going forward." It was a great policy. It forced outside counsel to staff at least 30% of new matters with diverse attorneys, with at least half of that billable time going to black lawyers in particular. Let's not forget, Coca-Cola, headquartered in the black capital of the United States, Atlanta, right? So this isn't so crazy. Gayton hoped to increase the overall diverse billable hour staffing requirement to 50% within the next 2 years. So ambitious project there. But here's what happened. The American Civil Rights Project. I hate even saying that out loud because it's ridiculous. And this kind of is where it overlaps with Matt's reporting. This is an anti-affirmative action group. They threatened to sue Coke over the policy. In fact, over the last few days, the ACRP has sent letters to McDonald's, Starbucks, and Novartis threatening to sue over their policies as well. They said that the policies outlined appear to violate laws prohibiting discrimination based on race, sex. So they're taking they're doing the anti-woke
Doing the flippy thing.
Yeah, and here's how brilliant these jerk-offs are. The American Civil Rights Project, which does not represent civil rights on any level, they have a genius anti-diversity diverse board. There's 7 people, 4 people of color, and a female chair. So they're really playing the game remarkably
brilliant.
well.
That's so brilliant. It's hard to disagree with them because look how diverse they are about civil rights they're getting rid of.
Unfortunately, in this instance, I don't know what Matt's going to tell us, but in this instance, the ACRP got exactly what it wanted because after 8 months, only 8 months as general counsel at Coca-Cola, Gayton was fired. Okay? And in a definite coincidence, wink, wink, Coca-Cola immediately put his new policy on pause. Yes, it did say pause.
Pause?
Yeah. So officially, the company didn't say he was fired. They said he resigned and that he entered into a consulting agreement as a strategic consultant to the chairman and CEO.
Yeah.
For a year. And here's what that looks like, because this is a major payoff. This resignation. He got a $4 million lump sum. He got consulting fees of $5.3 million. And then he got a monthly check of $667,000. So he's roughly getting, I don't know, do the math, 15, 16,
Lots
$17 million
monies
to resign. And just so in case you're wondering, I know you are, surprisingly, Bradley Gayton has not updated his LinkedIn profile to reflect his new made-up role as strategic consultant to the chairman and CEO. I would be proud of that role. If I had that role, like say at MSCI, where I was unpromotable, I would actually put that on my LinkedIn profile. That seems important, but he clearly knows it's a bunch of bullshit. So here's what Coke did. Here's what they're saying now. They're saying that policy never existed. It never went into effect, actually.
Oh, that's a new one. So you can't pause a policy that never existed, though.
Yeah,
so what did they pause?
So they're just like, don't worry, like it never happened, despite the $15 million we're paying for this guy. And basically, I looked at the consulting agreement. It's there's one line about all the money he's getting, and there's 4,000 lines about a non-disclosure agreement. So basically, it was to shut him up. The new Coke General Counsel, just to play the game right here, Monica Howard Douglas is also black. So they know what they're right. So they know what they're doing there. And sadly, Coke's message is like a warning shot. I found an article from law.com called "Lawyers of Color Have Already Concluded the Worst About Gaten's Exit as Coca-Cola's Top Lawyer." So this is a pretty big deal. It's a kind of story that will not exist anywhere else other than the fine shed that we work out of. But this is a crazy story.
Congrats to conservatives trolling like everyone else by calling their group the American Civil Rights Project, and then getting a black lawyer, one of very few head counsel lawyers who are black, fired effectively
after 8
for
months
a policy of trying to promote inclusion and diversity through policy. Congrats to them for achieving their goal of limiting black representation.
It's a sick existence, as existences go.
Well, I'm gonna take a cue from you here.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna talk about how to do this right. Are you ready for this?
Yeah. Teach me.
So the alternative democracy, that is proxy voting, we talk about it all the time, has long been a bastion of independent gadflies and left-leaning ESG folks, basically poking the greasy underbelly of corporations, all in the grand effort to create transparency around the shitty things that companies do. In fact, I'm going to say right here, right now, that these petulant shareholders are entirely the reason you have the acronym ESG. Without them, there's no disclosure, there's no data, there's no woke corporations, there's no nothing. And here are some examples of what I'm talking about. Some shareholder asks for more ESG data.
Okay.
From the Eli Lilly 2020 proxy, there was a request for a board diversity policy. Why? Because, quote, "We believe that boards that incorporate diverse perspectives can think more critically and oversee corporate managers more effectively. By providing a meaningful disclosure around potential board members, shareholders will be better able to judge how well-suited individual board nominees are for the company." Shareholders, they just want diverse perspectives. They don't want cronies. That's the backbone of the argument for women and people of color on boards.
Simple.
Or how about this? From the 2017 Duke Energy proxy.
Uh-oh, this doesn't sound good.
They're asking for transparency around lobbying. Quote, "As shareholders, we encourage transparency and accountability in our company's use of corporate funds to influence legislation and regulation." Shareholders, they just want to know how Duke Energy is subverting democracy. I mean, Duke gave 75% of its money in 2016 to conservative candidates, mostly through like dark money and PACs, trying to lobby to neuter the Clean Air and Water Act. This becomes a risk because we can't like drink water and breathe air. Or, lastly, how about this classic one from the 2022 Coca-Cola proxy? Are you ready for this?
Speaking of which, speaking of
This is
Coke.
brand new. This is speaking of Coca-Cola. Quote, "The Coca-Cola Company's chief executive officer is also board chair. We believe these roles, each with separate, different responsibilities that are critical to the health of a successful corporation, are greatly diminished when held by a singular company official, thus weakening its governance structure."
That's an
Board chair
obvious one.
independence.
Yeah.
It's like classic OG
Duh.
governance risk.
Oh,
right?
duh. OG, duh.
Oh, stop consolidating influence with the CEO. Start getting accountable. How can shareholders exert influence? By making sure all that influence isn't with one inevitably white guy acting as board chair and company CEO. So, all that said, what I'm about to say right now might shock you. I'm here to tell you, hold on to something. You ready? Steady yourself.
Actually, I am holding on to something.
Hold on. You've been trolled, woke, leftist, ESG, elite, liberal, Soros, child porn, communist, immigrant-loving, gay, white, radical, progressives.
Yeah.
We have?
Here's the misleading headline from yesterday. Quote, conservative activists file record shareholder proposals. That's right. Every one of the proposals I just read were submitted by conservative think tanks and nonprofits. Among them, the most prominent, now I'm not joking about any of this, the most prominent are the National Legal and Policy Center, nice innocuous name, and the National Center for Public Policy Research, also pretty innocuous name.
Creepy.
They're not very clever with the naming, okay?
This year,
this year they submitted a, quote, record number from 16 last year to 19 this year of, quote, conservative proxies.
That's the record number, Financial Times?
That's
16 to 19. Proxies like separating board chair and CEO roles at Coke or issuing a human rights report this year at Disney. Joke's on us, ESG crowd. They really got us good. So good, in fact, they got featured on Fox News recently as part of Laura Ingram's The Angle, where they are apparently, they are exposing woke corporate hypocrisy. If you think it's okay for Disney to take a stand against the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, well, how about helping communists kill Uyghurs, you hypocrite? That's why they're asking for a human rights report at Disney. Let's be clear, conservatives didn't care that Uyghurs could use it as a political point. But because I didn't exactly see them standing up for like oppressed women under the Taliban or anything like that. But Disney hypocritical wokeness does have a nice ring to it. And this, in a nutshell, is the great misconception about ESG that Larry Fink got correct. Correct. Okay. ESG is not woke. It is data. And if you want proof, here it is.
Okay.
The proxy I read to you from 2017 filed at Duke Energy by the National Center for Public Policy Research, this is not a joke, was a copy-paste of the same proxy filed in 2016 by Mercy Investment Services, a group of nuns. The nuns categorized their critical mission as, again, not a joke, saving the earth, being anti-racist, being nonviolent, and protecting diversity. The conservative think tank copied and pasted the woke proxy from the year before and filed it with Duke Energy.
It's
the difference between the two?
Yeah.
The difference between the two was in the statement of support. Mercy Investment Services stated that Duke's lobbying against regulation of coal ash basically posed environmental and reputational risks, and lobbying through trade groups created a lack of transparency. That's why they wanted a report on lobbying.
Okay.
The NCPPR used the same language and trolled the nuns by saying they wanted transparency because Duke Energy should be, quote, proud of its lobbying to protect its, quote, pro-business, pro-growth initiatives.
Wait, so they wanted to expose? I'm so confused. Keep going.
They wanted Duke Energy to release the same report that the woke nuns wanted so they could show off how they're actually protecting themselves by lobbying.
Okay. Sure.
They trolled the nuns by asking for the same exact thing.
But they don't. They don't.
I
They
think I'm okay
they
with
don't
that.
explicitly troll the nuns, right? They implicitly troll them. Do they
No.
mention the nuns? No.
No, they don't mention the nuns.
Do
They
they mention the
literally took
plagiarism?
every paragraph of the nuns'
Right.
statement of support,
Crazy.
including the nuns saying, "You are part of the business roundtable. We want to know what you're doing with them," and said,
Yeah.
"You are part of the business roundtable. We want you to be proud of what you're doing with them." Like they took like every segment and trolled them, and they asked for the same output. You
Right.
guys know that's what we want.
Yeah.
Like you didn't
Yeah.
you didn't de-woke the corporation. You effectively are just asking for the same thing. I love everything about this. It's all kabuki theater. When you can get super woke nuns who routinely talk about positive impact investing, and Scott Shepard, who's the head of NCPPR's quote free enterprise project, who said at CPAC, the conservative, basically Lollapalooza, that liberals call it a quote stakeholder capitalism, but it's really the real insurrection. You just got those two groups to agree on what they want. Isn't ESG just a data grab? Is it anything but a giant data grab? And side note here, Scott, the Business Roundtable actually called it stakeholder capitalism, not us. We didn't call it stakeholder. When they agree on what they want, the Business Roundtable and the nuns, it's just data, right? So I want to summarize by saying
Yes.
there is no anti-woke proxy. There's just proxies. And the alternative democracy works, America, because finally we got something right. It's all about transparency. That's all anybody wants, including you conservative nutballs. Yeah.
It sounds like good news. We're all going to end up in the same place anyway. It's kind of like the toilet theory, or like the is there a toilet theory?
I
don't even know.
I just love watching Laura Ingraham say that we're exposing Disney through a report on human rights, which is all like, that's because they're woke and that's not woke.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Do it all day long.
It's a good reminder to everyone that ESG practitioners are not necessarily liberal. They might very well be liberal, but they just need disclosure. They just want to know what the fuck is going on so that we can analyze it, right? I mean, so thanks for helping us out, I guess. Actually, Thank you. I'm not even going to say thanks because I don't really want to be friends. I just looked at their leadership. I don't really want to be friends with those people.
I will say I read a lot of proxies today from these people, and some of them are really amazing, like asking for a climate change report from Goldman Sachs because they wanted to see if they relied on science they thought was dubious, but they still get a climate change report out of Goldman Sachs, and Goldman Sachs saying like, this is how we use climate change. And then what? We got more transparency. So it's great. They've asked for lobbying and charitable donations everywhere, mostly because they're trying to find out who's giving to Planned Parenthood so they can get angry at them. But then we know who else they're giving to. And corporations, just mind you, they're not actually that political. They basically are taking like stands on both sides all the time. Like we're surprised by that. It's more data. It's fantastic. The ESG revolution as brought to you by conservative think tanks.
Maybe what this really is just yet another Washington, D.C. area nonprofit just looking for a way to justify its existence. This is how they raise money. They don't really want to do anything all day long, just copy and paste from nuns.
I'll take it.
And, yeah. All right.
When you copy
Let's
and
wrap
paste
up.
from nuns is my favorite thing.
Let's wrap up today's the diversity head scratcher. I'm gonna try to cut this one short. We're already running pretty long. I'll open this up to discussion because I'm confused by this one. The NFL says all teams must add minority offensive coach. Okay, this is what's been released.
They don't mean a coach who offends people, right? They mean like offense.
Is there another way of pronouncing that? Yeah, a coach not on the defense, not on the special teams, but on the offense. But there is a reason behind that, technically. Technically, they're saying that most head coaches come from the offensive staff. So I have no idea why. Emma and I were talking about before, maybe because, the offense actually is more associated with white people in the NFL. the line, the quarterbacks. Like so, maybe it's the white part of the team, and that's why they get all the head coaches. I don't know. The whole thing's confusing. Can I just start this off? That I couldn't find any information about this on the NFL's website. I'm not frozen. I'm pausing for dramatic effect. Like they don't. Why do we care if they don't seem to care? This is what I don't get about the world. They got a bunch of other nonsense up there, but they're not exactly showing this off. Okay, here we go. The coach can be a female. So this is the big news. They're adding female to the language here. They're adding women. The coach can be a female or a member of an ethnic or racial minority. Okay, that's the quote. According to the policy, again, which I can't find the stupid policy, but this is supposedly adopted by the NFL owners. And it will be paid, this position will be paid from a league-wide fund. So they're not even making the teams pay for this? I don't really... Right. I don't know what the hell is going on.
It's like rent a woman?
Yeah, so here's what it also says. It says some teams already have a coach or coaches in similar assistant roles, which will count toward the program.
Good.
I looked at I did not enjoy this. I looked at all 32 teams' offensive coach list, and they all have at least one black coach.
All right.
So I don't even
Everybody
know.
met.
But I don't know
That's
if they
kind of policy.
What I understand is I can't even find the stupid policy. I don't know why you wouldn't publish the stupid policy, but I don't know if this is it going to be a special position or I don't even get it. Like the whole thing just doesn't make any sense to me. It's kind of like bring your kid to work day. I don't even know. I don't get it. I don't get any of it. All right. The good news here is that this was announced by the chair of the NFL Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee, which is a white dude. I just thought that was fun.
That's great.
Of course.
Other than that, the NFL also there's a commitment to increase diversity among ownership, and here's the commitment. They put out a quote saying that when they are evaluating a prospective ownership group, the membership will regard it as a positive and meaningful factor if the group includes diverse individuals. That's the commitment.
Yeah. But the commitment is we will view it as something.
Yeah, I mean, seriously,
something else
they
happens.
put out they put out that statement. This I could find on the website. That's the statement they proudly put out. That they will think it's positive if you're a woman or black or something or whatever. I will say this: they did also announce a diversity advisory committee, and there's no white dudes on the committee. These are outside people from the NFL. So I was pretty shocked by that. But that's it. I'm wrapping it up there. I just don't get any of this. I just don't. Talk about kabuki theater, Matt. I just don't understand. Just don't get it. I don't get it.
Do we want to stick around and talk about this a little bit more after I wrap up the show here? Do we want to do that?
Sure. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I'll say this as one thing that I need to make an addendum to. Yesterday, I did a whole rules if you're going to slap a stakeholder rules.
Yeah. Wow, what happened?
There's a new step here. I missed a step, which is after you have your board make a fake policy, make sure you already comply with the policy and you don't have to do any changes. If you've already got all the coaches, that's a no-brainer. That's a policy you should just enact because it sounds great. That was Damian Rollis and Emma Lurking. I was Matt Muscardi. We are Free Float Media. If you are on the live stream, stick around. We'll discuss this. If you're on the podcast, watch the live stream. Go to our YouTube channel and you can watch the discussion. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow with more Biz Nougats. See you then. And by see you then, I mean stick around. Because
wait, so you get to... I don't really want to get into this. We can talk about the NFL, but you get
Let's
to
kill
punch.
the music. Let's kill the music.
You're getting an award. You get to punch the person up there giving out awards and then get your award. You're like that. That doesn't seem. I don't really get that part of it. And I still haven't watched the video, but why aren't they calling it a punch? Is there
it was not a
slap. It was open hand.
Mm-hmm.
It was like
it's open hand.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's a slap. Okay, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
It's everywhere.
What did you want to say about the NFL, Matt? Clearly, you wanted to keep talking about it.
Oh, well, I just I'm trying to understand exactly what it means.
What's the problem?
You make a policy you already comply with.
Here's the problem. This is what I hate about the NFL because they routinely do this to me. They're a private organization. I guess they can get away with it. Some chucklehead on Twitter seemed to have got his hand on this policy. It even referenced an appendix. So I was excited because I really wanted to see what the hell's going on. I don't know where he got this from because it doesn't exist anywhere. I tried to put it in many searches as I could. I looked everywhere in the NFL site. I don't know. I don't understand it. So whatever this policy is not been released. But I don't. So what I can't tell is that are they just going to slap this fake title on the coaches that are already there, or are they actually going to get new
Well,
diverse
they have
hires who
to.
are
They must designate them. But what they really did was actually make it so the owner of that team doesn't pay that person.
no burden?
Like it's
Well, they're
shared.
yeah, because we know who these owners are. I mean, they're scary, like white dudes in cowboy hats. Like they're probably pretty pissed about this. They don't want to be told what to do. I mean, just like Duke Energy doesn't want to be told what to do. So
But they're
yeah,
all
right.
contributing to the slush fund to pay for this. I
I,
don't understand any of it. I guess is the point.
that clearly was a
It's one thing if
concession.
you're
That
gonna.
was a concession by the NFL, right? You know, in that meeting, that the owners were pissed, and I'm sure by the owners, I'm sure there's like
Yes,
4 owners who probably controlled the whole meeting, but they were pissed, and that was Goodell made a concession, like, fine, we'll pay for it,
and
right?
and by pay for it, it's like so if each one of those assistant coaches makes $100,000 a year times 32, teams, you're talking about 3.2 million. And
Hmm.
if you like basically set this up like in 5 years, we'll revisit the program. That's 16
No,
million bucks that the NFL shells out.
no,
16 million bucks.
yeah.
It's
Don't
like
say 5 years.
like
Don't say
you don't
5 years
think so?
because what I did see is that the NFL so far has only committed to 1 year. So
Oh, great. 3 million
that
bucks?
I ask you
$3
this: is
million
what
dollars.
I ask you this? Do you think 1 year is enough time, enough tutelage time to become the head coach of a? Because if you're not a white bro, you're not like a buddy, then you're not going to get the job anyway. So is 1 year enough to learn the ropes?
I think they're gonna have to fast track it. You're just
Yeah,
basically gonna have to do a lot of bro hugs in that 1 year. You don't have to
yeah.
learn any football. That's the point. I'm
No, you have to
struggling
like
here.
you have to become friends with the coach. Like basically, that's what
And
they're basically saying. Like be close to the coach because if you're not buddies and they don't feel comfortable with you, they're not going to promote you. I mean, isn't that what the culture is?
to bring it back to the other sections, though, does the fact that they didn't announce this, like, they don't want to add fuel to the NFL as a woke
Well,
corporation fire?
this is one thing we learn on this show repeatedly is that companies, corporations, they get to say stuff, and it doesn't necessarily mean the stuff is happening. That's why we created this section about vows and pledges and uh, but the example of Coca-Cola is a brilliant example of that. Is that they are claiming that this amazing policy that the General Counsel announced last year never even happened. I mean, so
It's-
right. Yeah, I don't know if that's like a
well,
dog whistle to the angry, to the angry Tipper Gore anti,
Tipper Gore,
anti
that brings me back.
Oof.
anti vulgar lyrics crowd, but still,
Well, I do. The one thing that we have in common with the conservative think tanks following these proxies and like dialing back, that result in dialing back of woke policies in a way is one of the conservative think tanks, the National Center for Public Policy Research, filed with Pfizer this year a
hmm
proxy on political expenditure congruency report. What they meant by that, and I read the proxy, was you're saying things in public and then donating to charities and political
yeah,
lobbying in a different like
right,
that don't line up with what you espouse to be your corporate values. We want a report that shows the gap between your corporate values and what you're saying in public. It is an anti-greenwash, but also anti not greenwash. I don't
I
know.
don't see.
It's like a
I don't see it as anti-greenwash. I see
and
it as I see it as a anyone who even attempts to be woke, we're coming after you. That's what
but
I see it
it's
as.
the funny part is like they write it like like it's, they're trying to like expose corporate hypocrisy on conservative
Right.
value stuff, right? Like,
Right.
we want to show that you're not as woke as you say, and but you should be. I don't know what they're trying to get at, except that it does seem to be the case that if the NFL can make a policy, make believe policy, and pay for that make believe policy with make believe money, and somehow claim that they're a victory for the Rooney Rule without actually announcing really anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of right, aren't they? Kind of right? Don't you kind of want a congruency disclosure report from the NFL also?
What do you mean they're right?
I mean, the conservative, like anti
Oh,
woke
got it.
corporation crowd is saying the same thing we are, which is like, yeah, that's kind of bullshit. There's some, my bullshit meter went off.
See, is that what they're doing? I guess I don't really know what they're doing.
Well, what they use it
I just think
for
they're
when they're
trying to.
done
Yeah. Yeah.
is different, right? Like they want to be like, see, these woke corporations are hypocrites, and we need to get back to pro business. Like
Right.
that's why you should only focus on balance sheets or whatever. But what they get is a report that anyone can use. This was actually the great fallacy of the ESG thing, which is like ESG has become like this risk analysis, which is what we
Mm-hmm.
did. We did basically risk analysis using ESG data. But it started with a bunch of like religious people saying like we want to know how you make money because we want to invest in companies that conform with our values. But once
Right.
the data's out there, you could do whatever you want with it. Like it's out
Yeah.
there. Now we know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And we chose to make risk models based on it. The like conservatives are choosing to like try to de-woke woke corporations and or not invest in them. It's really all the same thing. It's just the case for the data.
Are they trying to de-woke them? Or are they trying to cancel? Are they trying to get them to expose their wokeness so that the people on the right will boycott them? Like I don't get the end game. I still don't understand the end game here.
There was a video of Scott Shepard, who's the head of like one of these think tanks groups,
Yeah.
doing the like proxies,
National Center for
speaking
Public
at
Policy
CPAC.
Research. Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's speaking at CPAC, the conservative whatever, political action convention or something. Um, and he says as part of it, and I watched this speech, he says as part of it, right? Like, boycotting doesn't really do anything. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. But you go out and you get one share of the company. You can show up to the shareholder meeting. You can ask your questions. You can actually affect change. I think they want to actively de-woke the companies. That's what
But
they're
how? But
doing.
they're asking. But I don't understand if they're asking for the same things that the quote unquote woke crowd is asking for. How are they? I don't understand.
They're going to use the report to say, look, you're spending money in like on
On
these
woke
woke
causes.
things. Yeah.
Stop it.
Like that. Stop it. Right. They're going to
Right.
say things like you shouldn't be lobbying the don't say gay bill, or like, like when that affects your business, if you're not also like out of China, you can't have it both ways. That's what they're trying to say. Because you're killing Uyghurs over there, and we're like just talking about
Okay.
like parental rights over here, and you're picking and choosing your hypocrisy.
Right.
It's like hard to keep up because it's so like trying to flip it on its head, but it's kind of like not really, doesn't really work that well.
Right.
But it does seem like the NFL is also trying to have it both ways. Like we're not actually going to make minorities, like we're gonna make up a position and pay for it, so there's no account to the teams for that position. If the NFL pays your salary and you do a shitty job, you don't get invited to meetings. But who do you complain to?
Yeah.
Do you complain to the owner of the team, and the owner's like, "Well, I don't pay for you. Like,
But why
you're here
aren't
because the NFL makes me."
why aren't they
put you
promoting
here.
this? Is my question. What they so they there was they talked about diversity matters yesterday, and there actually are two official press releases. One covering that weird statement about diversity ownership, right? and then the other one announcing the new diversity advisory committee members who are from outside the NFL. But what they don't press release, or nor do they mention anywhere else, is this new part of the Rooney Rule. This new. So I don't. Why are they? Wouldn't they promote that as a form of greenwashing if they're so proud of it? I don't. Unless this is another concession, like we'll do this, you have to pay for it, but we're not going to announce it. Like you don't get to tell people about it. It's
Does
confounding.
it? Maybe they don't announce it because it's so half-assed, but also they're setting themselves up for next year, where they can
Yeah.
say, "Look, we increased the percentage of minority, assistant coaches, and therefore the pool to comply with the Rooney Rule is much larger than it was last
Yeah.
year."
But are they
And
actually going to add anyone? Because
Well, we don't know that.
saying that there are already people in positions, you know?
That yeah, that's why I was so desperate to
baffling.
find. I wasted a lot of time this morning trying to find the policy because that's what I was desperate to know. Because especially I was excited about this appendix, but I don't know if they're
Some-
required.
you're the one
to
person
add
excited by
someone,
an appendix.
Because I would think that if this was going to work eventually, yes, of course, you'd have to start adding people and putting them on a short list, like like a promotable short list or something. But Matt, to your point, the comment about them increasing diversity among ownership, that was half-assed. That was 2 sentences. That was a full press release that was 2 sentences, and all they said, the first sentences was that they support the important goal of increasing diversity, and the second sentence was that if there was basically a black person, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, that's good," like that.
That
but they
was the
put
goal.
that out. But they put that out as an official press release. I mean, you can see it. It looks weird online. It's 2 sentences.
It's also weird because they title it "Commitment to Increasing Diversity," and the commitment
The commitment is to acknowledge someone is black with not even a high five, but like a winker. I don't even know what the acknowledgement is.
The commitment was to regard diversity as positive. That was the
Right.
commitment.
But you could have a list, but the factors in selecting a new ownership group, the factors could be 150 long, and that could be one, right? Like that's a check. What's that going to get you? It's not going to get you anywhere.
But is this basically a barometer of no company, no CEO knows what to do anymore? Like they don't know how to comply. There's too many stakeholders. They don't know how to comply with any of them. They're terrified of taking a position of their own, and what it would mean for them or their jobs.
You might be right. You know who did know was General Counsel Bradley Gayton at Coca-Cola. He knew what to do.
But that actually is a perfect case study for what happens when you have an opinion, right? Like you make a policy that's rooted in a real problem. You kind of try to step forward and do a thing, not just talk about it, but do a thing. You get immediately basically shit canned and given a strategic consultant, contract so that it doesn't look like you got shit canned.
And you get shit canned because a fake looking anti-affirmative action group makes a stink. That's what shocked me is how easy it was to get rid of this guy.
But then they replace the shit canned black guy with another sort of woke looking black woman, right? Like not that she's woke looking, but like from the optics of it, you can't replace that black guy with a white guy, right? So you have to continue this sort of charade of we are trying to be all things to all stakeholders. And guess what? We're actually going to double down. Now it's not just a black guy, it's a black woman. Like, gotcha.
And it actually
can't say we didn't get unwoke.
It aligns with the anti-affirmative action play group, which stuffs its board with black people, because she immediately, of course, comes out and says this policy never existed, and doesn't go on to discuss the policy. Like she doesn't even want to talk about it. Like it's
trotting out Sheryl Sandberg.
But it's one thing to kill a great policy and to fire him, but that alone is terrible. But then to like Coca-Cola's their point of view now is like, we're not even talking about it anymore. Like, don't bother me with this. Like, that's crazy to me. I don't know. I don't.
It is.
I don't feel like they've earned that right to just like it never happened. Like I don't know.
but that it never happened means you never put that opinion out there, means you can't get criticized either way. You can
But they
like
did put it
the
out there. But their former general counsel already tried to establish it.
but they basically can blame it on that guy. Like that was
They're
never
they're
a fully
erasing
vetted
history with a
policy.
$20 check.
That's what they're exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And we are firmly committed to diversity. You can see by the hires we make. You can see like we have this policy over here that's vaguely worded about a commitment to diversity, or maybe we
Right.
set some target that we've already hit. Show how committed we are. I really think that like there are very few, if any, corporations, companies, the NFL included, that have any idea how to tackle this.
The bigger
Like,
ones, I'm sure the smaller ones do. I mean, you do hear a lot of stories about small companies, small corporations doing amazing things. But you're right, like to this scale. But this is why corporations of this scale are fraught with disaster anyway, because it's too much. Like, and a part of me doesn't blame them because when you try to have a global supply chain, a global workforce, a global everything, how the hell do you manage it? It's
you
not
can't
natural.
manage it.
It's
You
but it's
can't.
not,
It
it
isn't.
shouldn't be to begin with. It's not natural.
I am forced to sort of agree that there is no way to comply with your own like instincts at all because you're so everywhere, right?
Yeah.
You can't possibly
Well,
and like in recognition that like if you operate in a place like China because it's cheap to operate in a place like China,
yeah,
there's a trade-off, right?
right.
And you cannot be honest about those trade-offs. Like no
Right.
one wants to come out and say it's weird that in effectively an atmosphere, a media atmosphere, social media has like weaponized opinions, and
Hmm.
their opinions are everywhere. Everyone's like got knee-jerk opinions about everything. That companies, CEOs, executives basically are catatonically like in a like unable to have an opinion because if you have one, you're not being honest about any of the trade-offs that you're making and that the fact that you
Well,
actually cannot manage any of these
it
things. You
it
can't.
reminds me of my former position, where I had to compile diversity data, board data, and I remember trying to. I really wanted to point out how much I've mentioned this on the show many times, like how much of a disaster Asia is. Like Asia just seems to hate women. Period. End of story. And I really wanted to call that out because it's so off-putting. That 4% of the board at the time in Japan or whatever was women. But it's just like, no, we can't really go there because that's their culture and that's their patriarch. Like, it's not really appropriate for us to. I don't even know. Like, it was like you couldn't even weigh in on that. I mean, I'm not blaming the former company. I'm blaming everyone. It's just like because it's a bunch of horse shit. It's just like, what do you?
And now it's like because there's no right answer, I actually think that the conservative think tanks and the nuns are the only ones with the answer, which
Which is
is
what the same
disclose.
copy and paste each other.
It,
Yeah, you're right. The other answer is
it's just
it,
say truth, like put it out there, do your report, do your audit, give some numbers, like say what you really are and let
yeah,
anyone else
that would be
decide. But
wonderful.
you
That'd be
have
wonderful.
to live with that.
Well, it's a tenet of
Hmm.
democracy, right? I mean, that's an important part of democracy. I mean, that's why we have journalism, right? I mean, this is to disclose, to tell us what the
I
hell's
feel
going
like we've
on.
basically gone a half of a decade in post-truth, right? Where with in this country we had Trump, you got Boris in the UK, you've got like the rise of what's her name, Le Pen in France. Like we like all of like the Western economies, so to speak, are post-truth, and then you have like Russia and China and places in
You're like
like
post truth.
Indonesia and the Philippines. They're
Yeah,
like controlled truth, right? Like there's not
yeah.
real truth. It's basically state-controlled truth,
Manufactured truth. Yeah.
manufactured truth. That we're now hitting the point where Ari said it to me this morning that like the conservatives have 180'd so much that they've come back to like what the progressives are asking for too. All anybody wants is God. Is anything? Do we have? Is anything true? Like there anything spinless? Can you give? Is there truth somewhere? And ultimately, now we're just asking our corporations the same exact question. We may have different goals, but it's the same exact question, which is, can you please just disclose something?
Just tell us
And
what the
when
hell's
you
going
get
on.
there,
Yeah.
when you get there, I feel like, I feel like we've won. I feel like
Well, there could
it's
be
finally it's victory.
to me, there could be a trade-off. Like if you don't tell us what the hell's going on, you have to treat these stakeholder groups like this. You have to do these things for these stakeholder groups in the meantime, like living wages,
Well,
etc.
once you have the data, we can do whatever we want with it. That's what we'll do.
You know, I didn't actually know
That's
the solution. I know the solution. Instead of leaving ESG research and ratings and the data, instead of leaving it to actually some of them are publicly traded corporations, why not hand it off to independent researchers like us? Let us.
yes.
Because you know what,
That is the answer.
we're not gonna treat it like a huge sales and marketing exercise. Like
Don't care about acronyms.
we'll just take the data that we can find and we'll hand collect the other stuff and we'll funnel back to you some actual assessments.
I will say this. I will say this for the and this is specifically to the ESG community. We've had a lot of clients. We've talked. We know a lot of people in the ESG community. We built a lot of the sausage
Laurie
that you're
does.
eating, which is horrifically fattening.
I don't even like sausage.
But I love sausage. I don't know.
Really?
But no one, like I shouldn't say no one. Very, very few people along the way actually know what they're trying to achieve with that,
Well-
other than make a product they can sell.
Well, I was gonna say like
And if you
that's what's
have
known.
an idea,
Yeah, is the sales and marketing
Yes.
angle of it is known. Yeah, and it's not.
if
you
you
can't-
have
I
an
don't
idea
blame
of what
them
you're trying to
necessarily.
achieve, I don't care if you're from a conservative think tank or from the nuns. We are the independent voice
Yes.
that will tell you
Well,
you're probably wrong.
This is why, and I hate to burst anyone's balloon. For all you data nerds out there listening, I hope we have some data nerd fans. But this is why
Nah, we don't.
none of the biggest providers of this research have historical data sets that are useful because they're also focused on selling now and selling in the next like 6 months that they don't give two rat shits. Are there is rat shit? Is that a thing?
I think that
don't
is something that they trade.
They don't care about the totality of the thought process. It's all about short-termism, which is ironic because a good ESG practitioner should be preaching long-termism, but the field itself selling ESG are short-term crazy people. So anyway,
Short term selling long term. All right.
right.
That's all we have. We will cut the
no.
live.
If anyone's
feed
still
now.
listening,
Oh, no, it's not all we have.
we have a lot of we got a lot of random, annoying, difficult, intelligent user questions that we have to confront.
Oh yeah.
That we're gonna try to
tomorrow.
answer tomorrow.
Tomorrow's going to be a woke data show. If today wasn't woke data enough,
Some of these listeners are annoyingly intelligent because their questions are incredible. That's all I'm gonna say.
and they're so long. I needed a dictionary.
Yeah, how dare you?
That's all we
care, you
got.
think?
Let's kill the live feed. We'll be back tomorrow with woke